Welcome into the Fourth and Long podcast on Tuesday, August 17th, September the 17th. Tonight's show is a really busy show. I will give you my thoughts and opinions on the Michigan quarterback situation, the Florida quarterback situation, talk about Arch Manning, give you game picks from being my co-host, upset picks, and a lot more. Let's get started here with we are going to talk a little bit about the Michigan quarterback situation. So, Michigan has made a change in quarterback going into week number 4, and it'll be Alex Orji getting the start for Michigan against USC this week on Saturday. And out of the bit we saw out of Alex Orji last year, I think this is a really good move for Michigan, as it might open their offense a little bit. It might open their offense a little bit more to have bigger plays and to be a lot more dynamic, because Orji's a decent passer, but he's better at running the football. So this might open up the run game a lot more for Michigan, as well as the pass game. But Michigan fans, what I'm going to say here is I think you need to be a little patient with this move at quarterback. It might take a couple weeks for Alex Orji to get his feet under him after being named the starting quarterback, because Davis Warren struggled in the first 3 games of the year. So I think Michigan decided it was time to make a change. And going into the first Big Ten game, we need somebody that gives us the best chance to win, and that's Alex Orji. And like I said, overall, I feel like this is a better move for Michigan than having Davis Warren continue to be the quarterback. And Davis Warren's always one injury away from getting back on the field and being the starter again. But right now, I feel like Orji does give Michigan the best chance to win. And I'm going to say this. I think they have a better chance of maybe beating USC this week with Orji at quarterback compared to having Davis Warren at quarterback. Now, we're going to see how the run game ends up working for Michigan against USC with Alex Orji at QB, because it looks like Khalil Mullins might be the running back one for Michigan and not Donovan Edwards, because Donovan Edwards has struggled the first 3 games of the season. Khalil Mullins had a big game 2 weeks ago, and let's see what he does this week. But tomorrow's show, I will be giving you my top 25 and my upset picks, my other upset picks that I don't give on this show, and my personal game picks. But let's also, now we're going to talk about Florida. And I'm going to give so the Gators are going through the same thing that Michigan is. They're going through a quarterback conundrum. They've got DJ Lagway and Graham Mertz. And Billy Napier's job is on the line. And the smart thing to do would be to put Graham Mertz on the bench and let DJ Lagway be the starting quarterback the rest of the season. But no, old Billy Boy, Billy Napier came out and said, as long as Graham Mertz is healthy, he will be the starting quarterback for the Gators. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I think Graham Mertz needs to be on the bench. And I think DJ Lagway needs to start, because if he doesn't start and he ends up redshirting, I think he's going to end up transferring somewhere else And I don't think that's going to be a good look on Florida if they lose Lagway, because he didn't get any playing time. And they were playing Graham Mertz, who we've seen. I've already called one QB change in college football. And maybe I've called another one here with Graham Mertz. I said that Payne Thorne would get benched a couple weeks ago, and he did for one of the freshman quarterbacks at Auburn. And now I might be predicting the same thing to happen in Florida, and I hope it does, for the sake that maybe it keeps Billy Napier there another season, another year. But if it doesn't happen, I think Billy's gone, as good as gone at Florida after the season's over. And right now, the Florida win total, I'm still taking the under. There's no way they win. They might go 1-11. They might. They might actually win one. Their only win might be against Sanford. They looked disgustingly awful against Texas A&M. Even though they scored 20 points and only lost by 10, they looked awful against Texas A&M. The next thing I'm going to cover is I'm going to briefly talk about the Tennessee-Oklahoma game, as that is one of the games we will be talking about again in game picks. But I think this is one of the weeks where I think college football got it right and said get college game day to the correct place. Two ranked teams. In this case, only Tennessee's ranked in my rankings because I do my rankings a different way. And if you would like a separate video on that, me explaining how I do my ranking system for college football, put it down in the comment section down below or leave a like. If we get this video to 5 likes, I will make a video on how I do my rankings for college football. But I think this Tennessee-Oklahoma game is going to determine, who one of the representatives will be in the SEC championship, possibly be in the SEC championship game. Because if you saw my prediction in the preseason, I said that Texas and Georgia was my SEC championship game, with Texas winning the SEC. And I still think there's a possibility that that's going to end up maybe being the championship game in the SEC. But then again, we still have a whole lot of time left in the season for there to be somebody that comes out of nowhere out of the SEC. And people are saying that might be Auburn. Who knows? It might be. We don't know. This is week number 4. We're 3 weeks into the season. Now I'm going to briefly talk about Texas. And if you guys didn't see the Texas UTSA game last week, there was an injury that happened, and it was Quentin Ewers with an abdominal strain, and he's from the way Steve Sarkisian worded it, the injury report comes out, I believe, Wednesday, after Wednesday's practice. And Sarkisian's already said that Quentin Ewers is going to be questionable. Don't get your hopes up that he plays, because their next 3 games are walk in the park. They've already said that Arch Manning is going to start, and I think I think that Arch Manning is going to show out these next 3 games. They've got ULM, they've got Mississippi State, and they've got, I think it's either Auburn or Arkansas. They could go 3-0 in those next 3 games with Arch Manning lighting it up. But Quinn Ewers is still the starting quarterback for Texas once he comes back, once he's healthy. There is no QB controversy, at least not yet. And then now we get to the game picks. And the first one is Missouri and Vanderbilt. My co-host is picking Missouri to win. And I'm also going to pick Missouri, as I don't think Vanderbilt stands a chance against Mizzou. I think this game's going to be a blowout. And I don't think it's going to be I think both of us don't think it's going to be particularly close. The next game is Oklahoma and Tennessee. My co-host is picking Oklahoma to win, and I'm going to go against him on this one. I think Tennessee wins this game, but I think it is a very competitive game in the SEC, and I think Tennessee wins a high-scoring game. Then we've both got Texas A&M at Bowling Green. We both got Bowling Green. We both got A&M. There's no way Bowling Green beats Texas A&M. And then you go South Florida and Miami. My co-host is picking USF. My heart wants me to pick USF, but my brain is telling me to pick Miami. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to go Miami because I think Miami's going to win this. They're going to beat USF in a close, low-scoring game. I do think USF sticks around and keeps it close. Then we've got Cal and Florida State. My co-host is going with Cal, with California. So am I. And I'm going to give you a little teaser of what's ahead. Oh, no, that's that tomorrow's show. One of my cover picks is Cal. So that's a little teaser. But I think Cal is going to beat Florida State. Mark my words. And my co-host thinks the same thing. Then you got the Rand Bandana game Saturday night between Boston College and Michigan State. My co-host is taking Boston College. And as most of y'all know, I'm a Big Ten guy. I'm taking Michigan State here to beat Boston College. Easy and simple. SMU TCU is the next game. And my co-host is taking SMU. I'm also going to take SMU. TCU did not look good against. I know TCU beat UCF last week, but no, TCU lost to UCF last week. And I don't think it's going to be much of a game here. I think SMU is going to run them out of the building. Then we've got Oklahoma State and Utah. And my co-host has Oklahoma State. I have learned my lesson. Don't doubt Mike Gundy. I am taking Oklahoma State as well. And the last game, Texas Tech, Arizona State. My co-host is going with Arizona State as well. I am too. And now we get to our picks. Our upset cover picks and over-unders. We are going to start with upset picks. My co-host has 4 upsets this week. His first one is South Florida over Miami. And I can see this one happening if USF plays the way they did against Alabama. But then again, does it happen? Possibly. I'd love to see it happen, but Miami just looks really good. His second upset is Oklahoma over Tennessee. And I know he's doing this out of spite because he does not care for Tennessee because he's a Florida fan. And do I think this happens? Possibly. His third upset is Oklahoma State over Utah. And I'm going to have to go against them on this one. I don't think. Oh, yes. Yes, I think Oklahoma State does upset Utah. And Georgia Tech to upset Louisville over Louisville. I like that upset a lot. Now, we get to my upsets for week number 4. My first batch of upsets. The first one is Purdue over Oregon State. Now, Oregon State is coming off a loss to their Civil War rival, Oregon. And I think they might be looking ahead to the rest of their season, which signifies, okay, and they just saw what happened to Purdue. Purdue is not happy. They let up 66 points to Notre Dame last week. And I personally think that Purdue here is going to pull the upset. My second upset is South Alabama over Appalachian State. Now, if you see what South Alabama did last week, putting up 87 points, the most points put up in college football in over 3 decades. Do I think South Alabama puts up that many points against a team like App State? Probably not. But do I think they can upset App State? Absolutely, I do. And my last upset is Coastal Carolina over UVA. Now, I think this was going to happen for one reason. Virginia, they're a fluke 3-0 team. All 3 of their wins are against not good FBS teams. So therefore, I think Coastal Carolina pulls the upset here. Now we get to our over-under picks. Picks against the spread. And my co-host has 4. He is taking Nebraska over Illinois, and he's taking Nebraska minus the 8.5. And yes, this is a Friday game, but I think I like this. I like his. I like him taking Nebraska minus the 8.5. I think that Nebraska does win this game against Illinois. His second one is Oklahoma State, and he's taking Oklahoma State minus 1.5. And these are the games that I tend to kind of stay away from. The lower point spread, because there's a lot of money going in on the other team. So say Utah, for example, there's probably a lot of money going in on them, seeing as they're the underdog here to Oklahoma State. But I like that. His next one is Missouri over Vanderbilt, and he's going to take the 20.5. He didn't say which team, so I'm going to assume it's Missouri, unless he's taking Vandy in the 20.5. And then his last pick against the spread is South Florida over Miami, Florida. And he's going to take South Florida into 17 points. Now, this one I could actually see happening. I could see USF covering the spread here outright. Outright cover. And now we get to my cover picks for my picks against the spread for week number 4. My first one is Rice +6 to cover against Army. I like this. I know I pick on Rice all the time because they're named after a food, but I think they cover the 6 points here. My second one is Kansas +2.5 to cover against West Virginia. West Virginia is favored by 2.5 points. And I think West Virginia I think Kansas covers here. And then my last one is a big, juicy, fat one. And it is Miami of Ohio +26 to cover against Notre Dame. Yes, I think Miami covers here for one reason. I think they cover due to the fact that Notre Dame might be looking ahead to USC. Because I believe Notre Dame plays USC either next week or the week after. And I think that they might be looking ahead to that game or future games after this one. So they might slip up a little bit and let Miami of Ohio stick around for a little bit. And now we've got our over-under picks. And my co-host has 4. His first one is NC State and Clemson. And he's going to take over 48.5 points. I like this. It's a good over-under pick here. And I think there's going to be a lot of scoring in the Clemson-North Carolina State game. His next one is Illinois-Nebraska. He's also taking the over of 43.5 in that game. And then he's got Miami of Ohio, Notre Dame. He's also taking the over there of 43.5. Both Illinois, Nebraska, and Notre Dame, Miami of Ohio are at 43.5 points. And he has both of those games going over. And he's going to take Georgia Tech, Louisville. He is taking under 57.5 points in the Louisville, Georgia Tech game. Now we get to my over-under picks. And my first one is Rutgers and Virginia Tech. The total is 46.5. I like the over 46.5 points. I think from what we've seen the last 2 weeks from Virginia Tech with Kyron Jones, they score. And I think in order for Rutgers to stick around in this game, they're going to have to match Virginia Tech score for score. Can they do it? Maybe. I don't know if they can, but if they can, then there's a possibility that there's a lot of scoring. My next one is Utah, Oklahoma State, over 51.5. I think this is going to be the game of the week, in my personal opinion. And I think there's going to be a heck of a lot of points scored in this game. And you can't tell me otherwise. And then my final over-under is BYU K-State. And the total is 48. I like the under. Under 48 points. I don't think, and it's a night game, K-State walking into Lavelle Edwards, I don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring. I think it's going to be a defensive battle, defensive struggle for that matter. And I think Kansas State does somehow end up winning. But if you've enjoyed this video, please remember to leave a like if you've gained any knowledge from the Fourth and Long podcast from me. And as you can see now, the channel is actually named Fourth and Long podcast. I did that for all my subscribers. That is for y'all. But subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any future podcast episodes of the Fourth and Long podcast. And to become a MVP, all you have to do is subscribe. We are on the road to 3,000 subscribers. We're trying to get to 3,000 subscribers by January 1st, 2025. But that is going to wrap up tonight's episode of the Fourth and Long podcast. I will see y'all tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. for another episode of the Fourth and Long podcast, where I will be giving out the rest of my upset picks, game picks against the spread, and my rankings. Have a wonderful rest of your night.